together. Okay.
Would you have a shared agendas also when we refer to?
Definitely, yeah, it's better. Okay, welcome everybody zooming in, and there are four board members here that who make a quorum, and Rachel. So yay, we'll call the meeting together at 7:20. And Rebecca, if you don't mind reminding and reading this land acknowledgement, please.
Okay, we want to acknowledge that we are gathering on unceded land. This land is the home of the Apache, Tiwa, and Tawa ancestors for time immemorial. The people of these communities have stewarded this landscape since long before national claims to this territory were made and colonized by Spain, Mexico, and the United States. We live, work, and gather with people from the Apache, Tiwa, and Tawa communities. For some of us, they're not only our neighbors, but are also part of our family, whether currently or historically. We recognize the vibrant indigenous communities of northern New Mexico and the connection each of us hold with these communities as individuals, as an organization, and as a community. The acknowledgement of the land we gather on, the history of its people, and our current relationships with the Apache, Tiwa, and Tawa people serve to inform the dialogue and work of us today. Thanks.
Thank you. Roll call, you've got present and okay, thank you, Tam. Our communication agreement summary, Rachel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everyone that is here is welcome, has an important contribution to make, and belongs here. I ask that we all practice kindness and generosity with one another, be curious, listen with compassion, and understand that making mistakes is not only normal, but necessary. We do these things to foster a feeling of safety.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do our roundtable check-in. Who would like to start?
I'll start. I'm doing great. I'm super happy for the rain, and it's really good to see you guys. And welcome to everyone that's on Zoom. And garden's growing, rain helps. Got to see some family over the weekend, took a couple days off. That was really nice. So. That's it.
Everything's going great. Love the rain, don't like the cold. Was telling Rebecca, we'll soon be returning to our offices full time. So I will have to really learn how to get up early in the morning. Be ready and be at the office by 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I love the rain, but I also find it very cold. Like a couple nights ago, I was trying to plug in my electric blanket and it wasn't working, and I'm always cold. So, but yeah, the rain has been just great.
Super frazzled, as you can see. Just been working too much. I was traveling, and well, that's why I'm just going too hard. So, but I'm happy to be here, and we're really happy to see rain. Our place was super dried out. My onions and beans are very happy. So it's great.
I'll check in last. Do you guys on Zoom want to check in? Rosalia?
Or Kyle, want to say hello?
Kyle?
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I can barely hear you all. That's why I wasn't sure of what which question it was, because I can barely hear for some reason, the volume from you guys to me is very, very low, and I'm on my max over here on my phone.
Okay. Well,
But
maybe we can
anyway,
turn it up.
thank you. I'm doing great. It's been really wonderful to enjoy the rain. And we had the Caterpillar program today. It was really fun. And yeah, I've been having a blast for the last few weeks. It's been really wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll try to speak up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rosalia and Leslie, can you guys hear us okay?
I guess not.
Okay. That concerns me a little bit. They might have stepped away for a second though.
Are they still on?
Yeah, they're still there.
Okay.
Your
Let's
turn.
see.
Hey,
Yeah.
can you
online.
guys
Hey.
hear us?
Oh, we
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. We are good. Grateful for the rain. Went to Costco today, made the trip to the Borque for a Costco run, so that feels good to be restocked with comida. But yeah, generally well. Do you want to chime in? Yeah, be home and in the
Oh,
We lost you again, Rosalia.
this one just went totally out.
No, we can hear you now. We heard that.
Okay, great. We tried dialing in to see if that would help our audio.
We're losing that again.
Connectivity, tough it out.
Okay. Is Leslie on?
That's
That was
Leslie.
Leslie.
and
Yeah, that's who she is going to. Okay. Anybody else but Kyle,
No.
Leslie, and Rosalia?
That's everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys
Okay.
feel free to chime in on the chat if you want to. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I too am just so thankful for the rain and reminding of, just the power of rain and of heat and of all of that, and what what Mother Earth is going through right now, where it seems like we're more prone to extremes than we are to how we all talk about. But I remember when the rain started, and it started gently and so on, and the heat didn't come. And so it's reminding for all of us that we are, we're on this earth as in the generosity of all the other living things and of the spirit that is the earth, and makes me want to be as good a steward as I can be, of my little corner of the world and of others. But I'm really thankful for our board and oh, that might be somebody, and all our wonderful employees and our community, and so yeah. I think that's all of us. So we'll have a look at the agenda and see if there's any changes before we entertain approval of.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second to approve the agenda. Is anyone opposed? Okay, if not, we approve the agenda as is. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes posted on the shared drive?
Yeah, and I made my notes directly on there as did Darren.
Great. So you moved to, did you
Well,
move to approve?
Do you,
with the
I don't
changes?
see your comments on the,
They were on, the comments were on,
You don't see them?
yeah, it's where you,
did somebody maybe accepted them?
No.
no,
Are you on the one through the folder?
Yeah, I thought I'm on draft minutes and May
draft
25th.
minutes, I click on the draft minutes.
I see them.
Oh, yeah, the comments were.
On the side?
Yeah, earlier, today I was just reading them.
Anyway, I mean, is there something to discuss on them, or are we moving to approve them?
Oh, now they are, if you go down, they start with Rebecca having asked for concern instead of concerned, and that change is made. Is it made on yours?
No.
Oh, okay, it looks like this.
The change has been made.
Yeah, the change has
so-
been made.
Okay, so are we just moving to, do we have a motion to?
Okay,
There are a couple more.
I can just go over them real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In order to approve. So, in the section work session, that paragraph towards the end, the last sentence, there was general agreement that a summary statement should be read before every board meeting. And so I added, a committee was suggested by Rachel, I think it was Rachel, in order to work on refining the agreements. Kayla, myself volunteered to be part of the committee with Rachel. So just to capture that. And then at community input, where the bullet that says Leslie offered, the end, the Platicas group is meeting weekly on planning, and I said the board supported the proposal. Next is under new business, report on Open Meetings Act. Transparency issues around board documents and comments. I said this included how to ensure documents that have comments. This included how to ensure documents that have comments to be viewed publicly. The bullet discussion of how the library can support wildfire evacuees and firefighters. The sentence, the library will connect with the Facebook group. I said, I don't know that EVL was going to play a role in this. I think it was more just Maria Shelton talking about this. So I think the library has like a responsibility to be committed to. Last is DEI moving forward. At the end of that paragraph, there was agreement to carve out time at the board retreat to discuss next steps. And I said, I think the agreement was actually that the DEI committee would meet, made up of Rachel, Marcia, Rosalia, Tim, and myself. And then Darren said that it
are you seeing the comments?
No, it doesn't matter. We can just incorporate them. That's
Oh,
fine.
then we'll just go ahead and
Yeah.
incorporate it.
the meeting adjourned at 8:50, not at 9:50.
Oh,
And that's it.
yeah.
I'll move approval.
Second.
So who's doing the incorporating of your suggestions? Because,
We can just put them right onto the Google Doc, but I can do it, but maybe I can see it at home. I'm not seeing it here.
because you saw.
Or unless someone just wants to.
If you have trouble, just let me know.
Okay.
I think when I tried, I can't edit it directly. I can suggest stuff.
Oh, well, then you may have to give us all permissions then, because I may not be able to either then. Let's see.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
well,
I
the
can't.
author of the minutes, which would be Tim, would have.
Should have the.
Well, once I
to
put
give
it-
permission.
She
Once I
put
put
it-
it in the shared drive.
No.
And this is probably me being a little over the top. The permissions in it are gone.
But I haven't for some reason.
Here, Darren's like, yeah.
I have them, I do have
For good
permissions.
reason. Rachel.
I
Oh,
have permission.
Right?
Rachel,
I'm a control freak.
I do have permissions.
You do?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
but no, okay,
We
but I'm
sorted
not,
that out a long
hopefully
time
at
ago.
home I'll see them. I'm not seeing them here, but
Okay.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the minutes incorporating Rebecca's suggestions?
I think we're.
yeah, we got,
We changed,
We
we already have
already-
that?
yeah.
Okay. Any objections? Then motion passed. And we have a second?
Yeah.
Tim second.
Tim, okay. So motion passes. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Rebecca, for your careful reading and suggestions. Okay. Okay, it's time for community input. The EVLCC board welcome comments from the community concerning board policies, projects, and actions. Are there any community members who wish to speak? Okay. Then we're at reports. We could start with Rosalia. Did everybody have a chance to read Rosalia's report?
And that is.
Okay.
The question I had is what are essential services? Like, what does that include?
Essential services are like copying, faxing, help with sort of any sort of computer work, emails, that kind of stuff.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, great report, I thought, and with STEM and STEAM, it is, I think we talked about even working some of those demonstrations into the celebration, those of us that are working on kind of an outline of that, so that's exciting. Any other comments?
For Rosalia, if you want volunteers for Saturday, what time should they plan to get here? Like for on to come?
Thank you. Yeah, volunteers, if you could arrive from 12:30 and then expect that if they want to stay during the entire time, the end would be like 4:30, just to wrap up and clean up. But if they want 12:30 would be the best, and then I can kind of shoo them off like an hour or so, or however long they'd like to stay. And that goes for any board member as well. Some of the solar things might be transitioned, as we might have a gray day. So if we have creative board members who can come up with a potential s'mores oven replacement because the sun won't be out.
Oh.
If we think of that, that would be wonderful.
No solar power.
But yeah, anyone to come and run a table would be amazing.
I agree. It'd be wonderful. It's going to be a pretty awesome day, and board presence of some sort would be wonderful.
I'll be out. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, but
I will be here with my kids.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about Saturday or about the report?
I just want to commend Rosalia for allowing an individual to complete their community service hours.
Yeah.
Many employers will shut the door in the faces of those that can get complete community service hours. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, Rosalia and Rachel, for allowing that to happen.
That actually goes straight to Annette.
It does.
Dan created that connection and made sure that that service was available. So yeah, Dan, Rachel, and I definitely helped to facilitate it, but Annette brought that to us. So I gotta then tip my hat to her.
Wonderful. Okay, has everybody been heard on this one? Who wants to speak? Okay, thank you, Rosalia. Okay, Rachel, Executive Director report.
And start off by addressing questions. What's so funny? Let's see. I'll start with something really positive. The La Segunda gross income like quadrupled. I mean, it was so slow in April, and then we got the May numbers, and so we're all very happy about that. They had a $500 day today, and that is thrilled about that, and it makes the volunteers feel very gratified as well. There's an activity in the store today. They helped a firefighter that came in, someone that had come in from Wyoming and had the day off because it rained, and he came in and bought a bunch of jewelry for his family members before he got to go home, and he told them that the fires were doing great and that they're almost out, and they really got a kick out of that. So that's great. Let's see. The congressionally directed spending that we requested from Senator Martin Heinrich's office, we haven't heard back from that, but when I did write that proposal, I wrote it for the community center and the stage, because on paper that is still what we're doing. We have a contract doing both of those things, and we don't know what's going to happen with it. I also wrote into that proposal that it could be done in chunks, and so that project could be broken into just the community center. Because when I was doing that application, they asked, can this be scaled down or worked in phases? And so I did kind of put a lot of language in about that already, which if we're offered that money, then we can kind of decide how we want to accept or not accept, based on whatever conditions they're offering. Just as with any grant, I'm hoping that that's how it works with congressionally directed spending. I'm not sure what the requirements would be. So usually I throw everything in there. And then if you have to tweak that as the process goes on, we can. Definitely was not Rebecca was a little bit concerned about in the comments about the fact that the stage was included in that. That was why I did it. It's not because I'm trying to, force forward movement on that project at all. But I do have a concern that if we end up being held to that by the Economic Development Department, that we're going to be really needing the money. So that was kind of what was on my mind when I requested that money.
But you said he insinuated that it was a reasonable.
Yeah, so
Request.
that's a side conversation. But yeah, I can talk about my conversation.
Rachel, I put some numbers together on gross income versus expenses. 69% profit.
It's not usually like that. We just had a really good month. Some months it's 50-50, some months it's a little bit more, but I think maybe once they get over a certain threshold of expenses, it's just like,
Yeah. It's pretty.
yeah, it's great. It's great. It gives us a great deal of security.
Absolutely.
Well, I would say with the congressionally directed spending, like, that I feel hesitant if we commit, like, if we receive funding to the state, because we haven't, like, our deal is with economic development. So I don't think they can like impose, like, you need to find funding to do a project that you talked to us about, like, because we got the funding for capital outlay for a project, and then we're having the conversation with Peter, like, you know, we don't have the money to finish the project, so I'm not understanding how they can afford to find money. Like, they seem two
Right.
separate things.
Yeah.
Oh, I lost the other thing I was gonna say. Oh, maybe the other thing that I wanted to say is that I feel like this brings up the conversation that we need to have about, like, what we're gonna do to get community feedback, like how we're gonna start that, and make steps to doing that. I know that in last month's, I think, ED report, Rachel had mentioned something of potential funding from American Library Association, and then I came across that they have like a document called Leading Conversations in Small and Rural Libraries Facilitation Guide. I thought maybe like if we had a committee that wants to start doing work towards community feedback, that could be a place that we would start, is like reading that and saying, okay, like, how can we make our first steps to doing it? Or another idea too is, you know, Rachel took the steps of having the First Friday's discussion in January, and maybe talking about, like, if we want to do something like that again, what are some things to be mindful of? Because yeah, I think that it would be good to reflect on how that went, because I think there were some issues with how it went.
So just to circle back to what you were saying, Vic, about plans for the library with respect to the stage and not a stage. I think we do need to land or make some decisions on moving forward with the type of input we need to select. I'm interested in knowing, I want to know, going backwards, in writing, what was committed to when the state appropriations request was made. You know,
Very originally.
yeah, because there's, to me, that I keep feeling a sense of responsibility because we had already made commitments about building the stage. And with that in mind, I'm thinking more that the community input should be more about what type of stage to build. But, you know, if there's no written commitment about us putting in a stage, then it allows us to start from scratch and start moving forward with what would we like to see our park become. So I don't know if there's any documentation that supports any commitment that was made. There is.
Yeah, it's in contract with the county.
And in the capital outlay legislation. I
Okay.
think.
What about to the community?
Mm,
Well, I know that the Fiesta is an organized group. Was there any written commitment to them?
I don't know if there was a written commitment. I've heard Shell say that there was a promise made to the Fiesta
Yeah.
committee, but I don't know what the details are on that. Maybe someone else.
Well, and I think that he would point to, well, I mean, this is really a discussion that I think we probably need Shell for. He'd probably point at the master plan from 2003 or 4, whenever that was, that included it in there. But I in terms of any kind of, I don't think there's a contract with the Fiestas or something like that.
But I think we all know that originally, in the previous 2 board presidents ago, did kind of a rush thing of trying to get the appropriation. It was 209,000 for a stage, just for a stage.
I mean, are there board meeting minutes
Yeah.
that would reflect some kind of commitment to that committee, to that?
So that, and then that's when it was then, due to various factors, it was rewritten. The same monies, which you can do, you can change basically the request, and our delegation, Susan and Ortiz Jr., and at that time it was Senator Martinez too. Those 3 got us the original. And so then it was changed to do a community center and less on the stage.
Which suggests to me that those relationships can be amended if there is consensus. We don't want to, in terms of our commitment to the legislators.
Well, that's what I thought we decided at the last meeting, is that there was that Rebecca and Shell and Rachel were going to go and get a clear written answer from the state about whether we can spend our full capital outlay on the building improvements with the agreement that we still had a community process to complete, and that we would seek new additional funds for the stage, not use the state dollars to do that. And I don't think we have that
And that's
answer.
pending.
Right, so I talked to Peter a little less than a week ago. I started reaching out to him right away after that. Well, but soon after that, we made that decision. That was, I think, 2 board meetings ago when we did that. So I finally spoke to him last Friday, and he said, because I emailed him and I followed up 2 or 3 times. He said that he saw my question and that he understands our thinking there. My main argument was we would prefer to have 1 completed project than 2 incomplete projects, which I actually wholeheartedly believe in. He said he has to take it to someone else in his office and that he will get back to me. So I now know that phone is the best way to get in touch with him. So I plan on following up by phone 1 week from that phone call.
That seems like a positive development.
I think so too. Yes. Yeah, he was sympathetic, but he made no promises whatsoever.
So,
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say to Rebecca's point that I really think that this is, if we can get an answer to this question in some reasonable period of time, that we ought to not necessarily engage that question about the public input process until we know this answer, because I think it would, in my mind, really potentially change the shape of that structure, process, timeline for how we engage the public in a discussion about the stage.
I feel like we need to make a movement to engaging with the community at some level. Like, I don't know if we, like, yeah, we need to wait on that piece, but like, maybe there's things we can do to like start preliminary plans for what that would look like.
Yeah, above and beyond the stage structure. Yeah, what the plans for the park. I think that that's a bigger ask of the community that we should be giving input for.
And we have a side plan to work from
Right.
about that. I mean, it's a side plan, but it implies some programming, it implies some use of the
So I see two
place to put
variables
input.
that are standing in the way from us moving forward. The first is getting an answer from Peter. That's one variable, we get that taken care of. The second is there documentation that committed us to a stage, not just to the state, but to the community? You know, are there board meeting minutes where we made a commitment to that Fiesta committee? And you're right, Tim. I mean, we should probably have this conversation with Shell because he's was more involved with that than certainly I was.
I mean, I think that the most recent commitment that we made when we approved the construction contract for the community building was that we were approving construction only on that and not on the stage, short of engaging a community process about the stage. So I don't think the question before us is stage or no stage. I think it's re-engage. It's a open, re-engaged discussion with the community about a stage. And so I don't think we have to answer that question. I mean, I think there have been lots of discussions over many years about a stage. I'm not sure that some might consider commitment and others might consider, you know, it's in a strategic plan document. It was part of a vision at some point for the library. But I think our commitment as a board has been to have an open discussion with the community to engage some new ways of engaging more members of the community in that discussion about the stage. And I do think that having this answer would be useful to know whether we have to do that on a pretty accelerated timeline, because we know we have to spend all of this money by next June. Or if we don't have that pressure on us, then that process might look different in my mind. I think we could take, I'm totally open. I mean, some of the steps that I think we could take, and I think we may have made decisions that we wanted a community advisory committee to be advising us as a board. And I think we could certainly engage, but then we keep running into ourselves. So I think then we said we wanted to wait to have our board retreat and get through some of this board communications discussion before we started talking about how we were talking to the broader community. So I'm not sure how we start the conversation with the broader community and what the right starting point is for that. But on that stage specific issue, I do think getting an answer to this question, at least in my mind, is a pretty clear first step that then either allows us to take a little bit of a breath or start to hyperventilate. So, and we can't wait too much longer if we actually are thinking we're going to break ground on a stage with the money that we have now.
Yeah, I'm in favor of moving forward with engaging the community. And I see your point with the decision at the state level being the only variable. I personally feel that the second variable is, did we make a previous commitment? Not to the state, but to the community. And what did that look like?
Yeah, and I think that Shell would speak to that as well, likely. But I don't know, Rebecca, what you feel about where we are as a board to start conversations with the community right now or not.
I do feel concerned when this whole thing with the congressional thing came up, reflecting on the fact that we said in December we were gonna get community feedback and being like, it's been 6 months, like, are we gonna get ourselves into the same thing again and get money and be like, oh, but we need community feedback. So, I mean, like you're saying, like what comes first and what should happen when, I think it's based off of like just the realization that 6 months has gone by. And I don't think we've like talked about it. So at least we're having a conversation here now. I think that defining whether the Fiesta Committee is a program of the library or if it's something else.
We're the fiscal sponsor.
Okay.
It's not a program.
Okay, that's good to know. There's different things that I was thinking. For me, like when I brought up a couple meetings ago about saying like we can put all the money towards the community center instead of the stage, and let Peter know, and I was like, why we can also communicate with legislators. I based on my conversations with Representative Christina Ortez about capital outlay funding, conversations I've had for Penasco's needs, they see needs change all the time. Like in organizations that thought they needed one thing, construction costs, as everyone has seen, has gone up. So it's like, it's not unheard of, and it's actually very typical for needs to change over time. So I think I would have a problem if economic development wasn't willing to work with us, because I would say that's a really inefficient way of administering money if you're making people do things that was going to work at one snapshot, like in time, and we're in a different place now. And I think that it's okay to reconsider, like, the master plan. Like it's a good thing to have like a plan in place. It's also okay to say like, well, what else do we want? And for engaging with the community in terms of like what they want for the grounds, like Felicity did the survey. She had a PowerPoint on it. It shows several things people wanted that we can like reflect on easily by looking at the slides. Like the community has said some things that they want. And for me, what in particular sticks out at that, because as a mom to young kids, is like what the elementary kids told Felicity that they were interested in. And I'm curious, like how their desire for a skate park or a playground, like how was that ever part of the conversation for the grounds? And so I hope that we can look at the slide she prepared. It has like all the data from her survey right there to look at what people said.
And
So-
that should be part of that should be with us when we have a in-depth discussion about this, so we can move forward with data that's already present.
So I think that we all agree. And I think that that's the action that we took was that I thought we all agreed that the most politic way was to not yet engage the legislators, but to work through economic development to get this answer. And I agree with you. If their answer is, here's the contract and we're going to make you stick to it, then I think we need to consider, if we think that's unreasonable and whether there are other political levers we need to try to pull to do that. But that we thought we might shoot ourselves in the foot if we weighed in too hard with legislators right now, when apparently it's slower than we'd wanted, but apparently there's been some response, and hopefully we get the answer we're looking for soon. And it sounds like Rachel's on it to keep that moving forward. But then I think, so the only thing that, just to be direct, the only thing that's confusing me now on the sort of public process piece is I thought that one of the, not main reasons, but a significant reason for a new public process was that that survey was seen as not scientific, not representative of the community, and not adequate. So I'm not sure what you were just arguing at. I mean, I thought that we really wanted to start to engage the community in a different way. And I'll go whichever way the board wants to go. I hope we have the time. I mean, I want to have the time to do it, and that reflects sort of our new commitment as a board to how we want to engage the community. And that can incorporate past information like the work Felicity did, and new ways of more proactively reaching out to people who would not necessarily respond to surveys or do other things. But so that's the only thing that threw me in what you were saying. But I think we just have to wait for the moment and hope that we get the answer we're looking for.
Yeah, for me, it brings to mind that if we go back to our processes with Juliana, and our first, we set the priority along with her that we would create our internal communication agreements, which we're working on, and which we're getting really close to be able to agree on the agreements and work on practicing them and being accountable and so on. The second step, before we did much else, was agreeing on creating that processes by which we engage the community. And again, we can't take a year doing that, because we want that to, especially as we start, we need to get information out about what's happening here, that, the community center's happening, and maybe with the site plan. So I don't know if then, and she gave us some models, to look at ways that we might start talking about. And we have ideas ourselves through all that we've been working on the last year, of new ways, as you said, along with other ways that Felicity developed, to be able to engage the community. And, maybe a place to start is just to have a big open community meeting with this, and like some models of stuff, like maybe a little stage like Robert Stout came up with. It was the kind that sends decibels out into the mesa instead of toward community. I mean, and then people could, you could put that, okay, how much does it take? You could put the playground, you could have a little thing that represented playground, what, and people could move things around, and it could be interactive, and here's a possibility. I mean, that's only one. Having a community meeting in which people physically come and do that, there's only going to be a small percentage. Again, realistically, a small percent. We're not going to have 200 people wanting to move around the jungle gym to figure out where it goes, but it's one way, and it's a public way. And I feel that, we're moving forward, starts and stops, and I think soon we'll hear, that it's a go, that we can just concentrate the money on that, and we have to create matching funds through another source to still be true to the discussion and to what kind of our public space is going to look like. But I don't know if starting with a community meeting before we reach kind of an agreement about, like, okay, here are new ways we're going to get the word out about the public, maybe our meeting in which we're physically here and looking at it. So it seems to me that maybe by the next meeting, we start looking at some models of community engagement, as well as what we've all thought of to do differently, to be more comprehensive and intentional and inclusive. And so we can get closer to, like, well, let's start with these 4 new ideas. And when we call this meeting, or when we get information. But that was really going to be the second part of intentionally creating. That's part of our communication agreements. That she called it maybe it was internal and external, something like that. But I think we need to do that. And then once we do that, and it doesn't have to be the final one. I mean, we'll learn so much as we try, you know, flyers at the churches and things that we do. And then we'll come up with other ideas, but. So let's just hypothetically say we hear that it's okay to go ahead and expend our funds with the community center. Now, if we're not communicating with in some way, with that's what's happening, but it doesn't mean that nothing out here is going to happen. I mean, I think we run the risk of, if we spend too much time figuring out how to communicate, and we're going, obviously, this is coming along. This could be finished by August or maybe September. And then, but it could be a thing in the meantime, like, well, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know that that was gonna, where's the book sale? What's that? The book sale is my favorite part, you know? I mean, so how do we balance? What are your ideas about how we balance? I mean, we talked about it, you know, maybe Rachel and I have talked about it as we meet a lot, and just like, maybe it should be a weekly thing or a monthly thing. It is our newsletter, and the newsletter doesn't just go out on Town Crier. The newsletter, we get it out. I mean, like Rosalie, when we were talking before, we're in front of the post office on Saturday. Every community member comes to that post office, or a member of the family. And then we you know, we had something out, but about, hey, you know, the board's been working hard, and soon, you know, making progress over here. And I mean, I don't know if we put information out before what? Before we reach that agreement, or before? I don't know. What do you think?
If I could chime in, I don't, we're going to be engaging with the community on some level, no matter what we do. It's happening all the
And it
time.
has to be ongoing. You know,
Yeah,
just-
and we could definitely do a better job. I would like to remind the board that we do have a written draft plan in regards to community engagement that was reviewed a couple of months ago, that I think has some really great suggestions. It could be better. And that can be something that we start with. And then as we get further into our agenda for tonight, we will also be talking about a very pressing and community engagement matter, which we will have coming up in regards to the co-op.
You know, we could pay, it costs us what, $200 to do a mailer in everybody's box?
I don't know how much.
And it's not 200.
I don't know.
Oh,
I've never done that.
I forget. Let's say it's 200
That sounds
for
rational.
to do that. Then every single person who has a post office box has a double page thing that says, hey, here are things that are happening at the library. We've got the summer program going. You can still sign up. We've got, you know, we're working toward the community center. It's got a couple months to go. I mean,
Would that include the UNESCO post office boxes?
could, I mean,
And
How
just
many-
get it
we can-
definitely, right?
we can find out how many boxes. I think that kind of is our key, because everybody gets a,
Sorry,
this is
I'm
how,
gonna interject, but please finish your thought, Marcia.
what was that?
She says she has something to say after you're done with your.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I think I just want to remind us all that what is meaningful communication with the community? Is putting a flyer on someone's door a full way to communicate what's going on with the library? Is this the first way we want to contact and communicate with our community in a meaningful way through a letter or a flyer? Just things to think about, like when we decide that moving in the community space, what is a meaningful way to communicate?
Right. I agree. That was just, I just threw that out. I mean, but I totally agree. And face to face, person to person, small groups to large groups are the best, are some of the best ways, but,
Yeah, I think, transparency is a big need. Rebecca's expressed that many times, I have. And I think that letting the community know what we've been up to is really important. I think we have to really define what kind of outreach we want to do, because there are, the door to door, that means human resources. And it's realistic. No, it's not. Are there alternatives? When I worked with the Promotores program, you had to reach out to folks. I went to the gas company and I asked them if I could put my flyer inside the monthly gas bill to the customers at no cost. That's one strategy. Kit Carson services Penasco area, and then New Mexico Gas Company services, or we could even do,
oh, they said yes.
Oh, yeah. I think we need to sit down and define our parameters, and with transparency being our common goal in everything that we do.
So. So we have a wonderful group of, 3 of you are working on our internal agreements of getting them, we read, and obviously, we've read it, there's been great progress. Then, and Rosalia, everybody who's on Zoom and on the phone. So our ideas about, we've talked about a lot of ideas about new and better ways to reach a broader base of our community, but how should we move forward with that plan? Creating that plan and agreeing on external communication agreements.
Could I humbly suggest that this is something that the DEI committee work on in between board meetings and come back with a proposal of some sort?
I'd be in favor of that.
I like that idea too. Before we move on, I made reference to the previous survey, and Tim, you said well, I thought that survey had issues. I do think it had issues in it. At the same time, I also know, with my work at the nonprofit in Penasco, sometimes community members get disinvested because they're always asked for their feedback and then they don't see it happen. And I feel like I've experienced that as I talked to Michael Golden, community schools coordinator, in the capacity of a board member at Moss County Advocates. He'll say, what do you need? What is your organization? What does the community need? And we tell him. And he's always asking us the same thing. And it's I told you what we need. I don't even want to tell you anymore because you're not making it happen. So that's kind of where I'm coming from and how I connect. So I think we should continue to find out what the community needs, but also be mindful. The conversation has been initiated, with them about the grounds as well.
Okay, we've got a lot more agenda items, but does everybody feel heard? Shall we move on at this point?
I actually have another concern and I don't know if this is something that we have time to address
Sure.
right now, but the filming that's coming up,
Okay,
um, it looks like Rebecca had some questions and some concerns about the filming, and I definitely don't have answers to those questions. I do have a response about the audience. It's the general public. And they're looking on getting it aired on PBS and then donating a DVD of it to the library and maybe to some other libraries as well. We can ask them to speak to the board at the next board meeting. If that is agreeable to the board and if that works for the filmmakers. But
I'm interested in that. I don't know. If
the
other,
filming, some of the filming would have already taken place at that point.
And I think your input sets some really good parameters for when they continue to visit the library and continue to do work with the library. I think those were really good, really valid points to make and to be aware of.
it's not intrusive.
yeah, I guess the asset base, like people centered, type ideas, strength based.
Definitely.
Rachel, let's see, on your report, anything else? It looks like we need to approve,
Financials.
the budget, yeah, and
Financials, if we could approve the financials, just the monthly financials.
then the 990.
And then we need to look at the annual budget and then,
So the financials have a huge net income loss,
yes,
but that is, I'm assuming is you paid the contractor and then you get reimbursed.
yes.
And
That's equal to the loss, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, the R&M wages, labor, you know, that's gonna be transferred over to the budget. And I have comments on that.
Yes,
So you know, that needs to get resolved.
Oh, good.
But anyways, I move to approve the financial statements.
Second,
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. And the 990?
Let's see, we need to do the budget first.
Oh, we need to do that. Oh,
would you guys like me to go through some of the points on that budget? There were quite a few questions.
mhm.
Okay, for this delay.
Does everybody feel those questions that were posed online have been answered?
I haven't answered any of them.
Oh, you haven't answered any of them?
No, it's challenging because it's in a spreadsheet. So I'll try and go through them really quickly, but if you need me to slow down, I totally. Hold on, I have two versions of this document, one with notes and one with the questions. Okay. All right, it's loading. Okay, first question, what categories will the expenses for the 30th anniversary and the DEI PD come out of? The 30th anniversary, I put into some sort of events. I put it into the events category. It's under the organization heading.
I can see the
Okay.
events there, and I wondered if that's what it was.
Mhm.
That for me is the 30th anniversary plus our board retreat, plus any miscellaneous small things that we want to do. The DEI training, I already say this, there's a continuing education.
Mhm.
That's where it's at.
That is where it's at.
Like those American, was it ALA?
Yeah.
That was, you had emailed out like.
Yeah, I included that, but
Okay.
a consideration of
Thank
a few people go into that, yeah, absolutely. The question, there's a question for under income, program service income other. What exactly is that? That's let's see. That is the payroll that the Embudo Valley Tutoring Association pays for the after-school program assistants. The Embudo Valley Tutoring Association pays at least a portion of that, of those wages. And that is one of the ways that they partner with us in that program.
Because they're their own organization.
They are their own 501c3. Yes. Contract labor is under the 600s and or 6,000s in occupancy. So first and foremost, this chart of accounts, Taylor and I complain about it every single week. It is extremely difficult to navigate. And it's just the conglomeration of many people who have worked on it over the years. So contract labor is the expenses that we're paying for the labor for the construction work that's being done out there.
Her contract is actually signed.
Yes.
Just for the labor.
They bill us separately for labor and for materials because we don't pay taxes on goods, only
Right.
on services.
So, and I hear what you're saying, so to me, that should fall under organization. Because it's not a program cost or management in general, actually, it should be under that. It's a corporate expense because of hosting renovations.
Because it's capital outlay on a piece of real estate.
I mean, that would be my recommendation. You could always get away with just having a new line item that says construction costs. And it could be inclusive of labor and materials. Because the contract stipulates with them, stipulates we don't pay taxes on goods and you're responsible for labor costs. And so it usually gets put into its own as renovation costs.
Yeah.
That couldn't just be 6,015. What is that on line 53? Is that
2015 repairs and maintenance.
is that the materials part of that contract?
That is the R&M wages is actually what we pay our gardener and our custodian. We've had this conversation before. I think several times. It's one of the major changes that we want to make to our chart of accounts. We had to get through our 2 late 990s before we even wanted to touch the chart of accounts because it has to be approved by the CPA. So we wanted to make sure that our taxes got done first. Anyway, we hate this too.
Yeah.
R&M wages is what we pay our gardener and our custodian. So it is actual wages. And then
Okay, but wages suggest taxes.
We are paying taxes on their
They
employees.
are,
Their
okay, then they
employees.
need to be under.
Yes, they
personnel.
do. That is correct. I agree with you. R&M labor is, that would be, like, our handyman, or if I have to get the well worked on. It's other outside, repair and maintenance work by non-employees.
By non-employees, so that would be a contractor that gets a 1099.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so, and that then falls under organization again, or the management and administration, because that's a contract service.
Okay.
Because like, Taya falls under management accounting, I mean, that's very appropriate, because she's a professional contracted service.
She's an employee.
But she is?
Yes.
Why,
So what-
why
what
is
is
Tia,
accounting?
I don't understand that.
Because she
please.
comes here, she uses our computer, she uses our filing cabinet,
But she has other clients.
she's, I think, my understanding is by law, unless she's bringing her own computer and doing that work from home, she's,
You can have contractors on site. I mean, like Nina has other clients and could come here and garden and be a contractor. I don't
yeah,
understand. I'm not sure what the benefits or advantages or disadvantages are, but
yeah.
I mean, I contract with people all the time on site with
yeah.
them.
I don't know. I mean, I am not an
Yeah.
expert on labor law, but these people were all employees when I came on.
So the accounting under management is probably the cost of QuickBooks. It's not Taya's time. Taya actually falls under wages.
She's under personnel.
Yeah, okay. So that must be something else. And it must be the cost yearly subscription to QuickBooks plus,
I'm sorry, which line are you talking about?
it's under management accounting, 6434. It's 3,500.
Hmm.
Or is that 990 consultant or CPA?
I think that's our CPA. It costs $3,500 for them to do our taxes.
We do have to contract with them. Yeah. I thought it also had to do something with being, like whether you're supervised or not as well.
Yeah, I think, and you're right, I mean, there's like 2-question rule that determines if you're an employee or contractor. But like for accountants, like for bookkeepers like Thea, are you purchasing a specific service? And does she have a business that you're purchasing it from? I'm sure because Moss is paying her as a contractor, she's filing Schedule C.
Same with Nina, same with our
Yeah.
custodian, I would guess.
Our custodian is in that.
And that's already employee is La Segunda, but you count her in 2 different places.
She's actually in 3 different places now.
Well, oof, that's okay.
Yeah.
See,
This is so
That
not
was
my,
everything.
yeah, but like that, why wouldn't she just be a general employee then who has those 3 different tasks? Like,
She is.
well, but why do you break it out like this then?
Because part of it's in a different.
And that's what
line.
they're trying to do. Consolidate.
Got it, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We're just kind of working with what we got.
Now, for Taya, the advantage for her is that we're paying her portion of the employer's taxes. Otherwise, her 1099 puts her on the hook for the full amount.
No, I, as a contractor,
Yeah.
I know.
But then, then the library is also paying a portion of its taxes. It's coming out of our bank.
Right, so there's a goodwill element to it as well, like, is it better for our community to have these people as employees or as contract labor? There's, and of course, that has to be balanced with, especially now that laws are changing. Which I'm guessing is maybe why some of these questions are coming up. The PTO and the sick leave and all of that, it makes you think about that stuff. So,
Well, you inherited this.
yeah,
And you're right, there's a balance here. And, you know, I think we have no choice but to continue to keep her as an employee
yes, I think that would be
and
the
work
right-
on tightening up the chart of accounts.
Absolutely.
That's more reflective of what we're actually experiencing in terms of expenses and
Yes.
income.
Yeah.
And we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we haven't made many changes. Well, she's made some changes to the chart of accounts, but not the ones that require.
I mean, so I'm willing to make a motion to approve the proposed budget with those recommendations for changes.
Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Or say something?
Yeah.
I had like a preliminary discussion with Presper Partners that did our workshops through Santa Fe Community Foundation. Because when we meet as a DEI committee, I wanted to share whether like they could do any work with us or not. Because, you know, like months ago, Rosalie and I were looking for a facilitator to work with the group. Having said that, like, I'm wondering how that comes into play with the budget. And based on like saying we're gonna set aside money for DEI work, like, you know, where does that fall in here?
That is not included in our budget.
So one thing to know about budgets is that it's fluid.
Yeah.
So that, yeah. So if the DEI committee approached us and said, we have a very specific project that we need funding for. And Rachel says, well, I've identified funding for it. Then we can go into the budget and modify it and approve an amended budget to reflect that.
Yeah.
So I think it becomes an as needed basis.
If it is that big of a change, I mean, there's small changes. That we make all the time.
So I have one other question if we're,
Sure.
so, well, I guess two. One, we're showing La Segunda as 45,000 on the fundraising side, which is that is not a net number, right? Is that the gross number that we're expecting? Almost 4,000 a month. So do we reflecting the expenses for La Segunda someplace in the expense lines?
Yeah, it gets all mixed in.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, so, but the really the thing that I'm concerned about there is, so we've identified 40,000 in essentially the individual fundraising portion of the budget of our income.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we think that's going to be this year?
The goal I set was 40,000.
And where are we coming in?
Last year we did 37,000.
This year that's ending now. I
Our
mean,
annual campaign, and I think overall with the whole fiscal year.
June to June or July to July. What is it?
July.
July to June, we did 36, and we're saying we're gonna do 40 for next year.
Yes.
45.
That's the
Fundraising and donations. Other than
40.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Thea, you looked at this as historical. Well, historically, this is what we've been doing per fiscal year, and you plug in those numbers.
Yeah.
That's usually how it works.
I thought 40,000 was the safe goal based on what we did this past year. Push it a little bit. Seems wrong to not try and push it a little bit.
And so what, as I think about this, I sort of feel like we've moved the money that historically we were making off the yard sale to La Segunda,
Oh, yeah.
and that the
we get
individual
much
is
more.
essentially well, and I don't think we get much more as a net though, actually.
From La Segunda, you don't think?
I'm not sure.
Because we would make maybe, what,
20, I thought.
20,
So this is the gross number on
the 40.
the 45 is the gross. I bet we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood, which is fine. I mean, if we're 2,000 to 3,000 a month, it less again, it would. I mean, whatever. I just in my mind, that's replaced what was a major event fundraiser. In our individual fundraising, we're essentially saying is coming from our annual letter plus other donations that come in. So the board question, I think, would be like, is that, do we want a more aggressive fundraising strategy and more, essentially, this is the board's biggest input into the income side of the budget, is what are we willing to take on in terms of fundraising for the library? And is this what we're saying we're comfortable with? At one point, we talked about house parties, a range of other things. We talked about a different approach to fundraising, and you know, the car sales, well, I guess the endowment is a little bit separate than this, but so what you've basically given us a low bar fundraising budget, I would say, right? I mean, that's not that's not meant as a criticism. This is really a self. This is we're saying we're essentially doing the minimum.
I was going for realistic.
Yeah, so that's the kind of policy question to the board in terms of looking at the budget. I think is like, okay, it's not super stretch in terms of what it's asking of us as board members.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it is very realistic, I think. And one thing to keep in mind as board members is that one of the reports Rachel provides us is a budget versus actual. That's a really important report to look at because it gives you a snapshot of up to year to date where we're at with expenses versus what we projected in our budget. And if we're well over our fundraising, that's great. Then we can go back to the budget and amend it and increase that amount. If we're well under, then we should have a discussion about new strategies to ramp up the fundraising activities. So, I mean, this is the budget versus actual is a really important document. I go through that all the time. I'm really happy to see how we've gone over budget with respect to income, because that was not anticipated in the budget. That's good.
Some of it was luck.
No, and part of this is just a reflection of when I started as a board member, where it was, and I viewed my job almost as like 100% fundraising, because we were literally struggling to make paycheck to paycheck each month. And so there was a different reality. In some ways, COVID was this bizarre, benefit in a way, and it sort of made some foundations more flexible in their funding and doing general operating. But I guess the real question I'm saying is that we've identified some wants and wishes and some sense of a long-term plan instead in terms of what we want to do with the property or other things. We're not building a budget with the intent here of like creating a wish list reserve, or, well, I guess you have some reserves built into this, right? I mean, that idea that do we have a vision that we're trying to fundraise toward as a board? We're not particularly doing that.
Right. Yeah.
So Tim, would you feel comfortable? Because fundraising, we talk about it and like we're always thinking of retreat or something. It should really be, it is definitely a core part of what we're responsible for. And you sit right on in your history fundraising with nonprofits, right?
Well, not tremendously, but yeah.
Yeah. So I agree, like maybe gathering a few other, including Rachel and yourself, and maybe Darren would serve to really, or whatever, or we come up in the next board meeting with ideas to, let's just say that we want to double that.
Well, but I'm not sure I was meaning to volunteer for that. I mean, I think that's I just wanted us to be clear on what was in this budget, because we hadn't really had a discussion like that. I mean, I think maybe the time for that is before you adopt. I mean, we can have it any time, but like, I'm happy to adopt this budget as is. I don't have a problem with it at all. I just want to point out that at different times, we have expressed an interest in that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so we have a lot on our plate right now, and I'm not asking really for us to put more on and say, well, we should have a stretch goal, but it's just that I just wanted to get clear on what we were putting in terms of income and what that expectation is on, individual contributions to the budget. And in part way, it's a great thing, because it's like we are doing much better than we were 2.5 years ago or 2 years ago. But a couple of grants go sideways that are in the budget, and suddenly we're
It can change
gonna have to
very
rely a lot more on the individual.
And I think the bigger strategy or goal in all this is increasing the percentage of unrestricted funds.
Sure.
Definitely.
So that is inclusive of, the fundraising and of course, La Segunda. I mean, that way we're not so grant dependent.
And nor is Rachel so completely that, just always having to stay so hard on the grant writing. It's a big part of
It
the job that you do so much. So
And then there's a.
the more the board can create unrestricted funds, the better.
So Rachel, the only thing that I added, because you gave me access to the document, did it? Thank you. Net income at the bottom is really important to have. Just so that we can see, are we projecting to have a profit or break even, or are we projecting to eat it? Some of the costs. So, and we have a projected profit of 1,600,
Which I would call breaking even.
pretty much.
Well, which you would want to show as a nonprofit.
Yeah,
I mean, we would want to, presumably create a reserve or something else to
Right.
suck up anything we were calling profit, I would assume.
Yes.
We don't want to show a lot.
One other question was about the rent line. What is that? That is the rent that we're paying for the storage space. And the co-op is currently paying half of that, so half of that is in the income. So, the budget.
So, do we have a motion? And we have a second? Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, motion passed, so. The budget accepted. It's a dynamic document. And I myself, I really want to look at what we can do more as far as fundraising of unrestricted funds.
I would very much support that.
Okay, we have 15 minutes. So do we need to approve the 990?
I move approval of the 990.
Second.
Okay, any opposed?
I have a question that I came up as I was looking at the 990. Where page 40, where it just says commercial community real property, is this referring to rent from the co-op? And sorry, if I'm just asking on the spot and you have to look at it later. I'm just wondering.
I think that's a good guess. I could not tell you. off the top of my head,
Okay,
but
I think that's
it might
about
be.
what we get from the co-op. And with that, I was wondering if there's a way to have something show the actual cost of La Segunda or the actual income that takes into consideration, the gross, but also insurance, repairs, taxes, wages, and salaries, just to see what it's actually bringing.
Oh, for La Segunda?
Yeah, for
for
La
La
Segunda.
Segunda? Sure, that's easy. I look at that all.
I thought we have that on, does that show up in our approved financials each time?
But not
I've
in the
never
990.
given one to you guys just for La Segunda,
Oh,
at
okay.
least not in a long time if I have.
So, yeah, she has the ability to produce monthly financials by class. So let's say when there's a class, they have its income and its expenses aligned in one column, and then any other classes that they created. So, if it's the will of the board, they want to have those type of financials, I mean, that's easy to reproduce. Or to produce.
I'll be able to share that with you at the next board meeting, if that was.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Do we need to approve the PTO policy at employees? Are we looking at
It is extremely
the
important
revised,
that
or there was a lot of discussion?
yes, we, in order to be in compliance with the law, we need to be offering all of our employees a certain amount of sick leave by July 1st,
Uh-huh.
which is in a week and a half. So that is what
All regular employees?
all employees, all employees, according to the new state law, every single employee has to have the equivalent of 8 sick days per year.
A 2-day, a 2-hour a
The
week?
equivalent. So it gets prorated.
Okay,
So the prorated is based on a point something number times the amount of hours they work.
Yes.
Okay,
fine. So
yeah, so that.
I
think
move,
that-
I move approval. That's what I was getting totally turned on, because it seemed like the way that was being talked about, that was not clear to me.
Well, I guess one thing I should,
But it looked like the proration was actually generating a lot more hours than
so
that there should be a cap on it, on both the sick leave and PTO.
yes. I
Yeah, because
agree.
the proration rates would give at those rates would give people much more than,
Right, there are a few questions that, I mean, I can just decide that are out there, hanging out there. There's a few questions that I thought should be run by the board. But basically, the law requires that every single employee has the sick leave. What we currently provide as PTO, we provide to every single employee except substitutes. Those substitutes now have to have sick leave. But we do, so that's vacation sick leave rolled into one. It's for the first 2 years that they work. We'll just talk about that. It's 2 weeks of vacation and 6 days of sick leave. That combined is where that accrual rate comes from.
for a full-time equivalent. If
That's
they were
what-
full-time, that's what they would
right.
have. Yeah.
So that's what I get. And anyone else that's working that much would get that much, everyone else gets less. The law requires 8 days. So the question is, do we take a little bit of that vacation away? And just say 8 of those days are sick leave instead of saying 6 of those days are sick leave? Or do we tack 2 more days on top of that? What I did was I changed the accrual date and I tacked 2 days on top of that because that was the harder thing to do. But we can certainly tweak the language to just say, I wanted to have the hard part done, in case that's what you guys.
No, you should
So-
not be losing 2 days of vacation because we have to add 2 days of sick leave.
Well, okay,
So if that's the policy, I mean, that would be my motion. Is like, I thought we were getting into an argument about changing rates of accrual for people who are working at different amounts of time as full-time employees, as employees.
no, it's.
So it's, yeah, I don't have an
So
issue.
PTO is defined by both annual and sick
Yes,
cumulative.
yes.
And it's based on a 0.06923 formula.
Which we need to change to add 2 additional days.
That's the new rate.
So we need to add, we're
No.
adding 2 additional
Yes,
days. So
that-
the rate, we needed to change the rate.
Yeah, so this is the new rate, is
Right.
what I shared with you guys. The other one's like 0.064 or something like that.
So because you answered Tim's question about part-timers getting the full or equivalent hours accrual as a full-time, I'm all for your proposed policy. I mean,
So but did we answer does the policy include that? I mean, I think that three of us raised questions about the termination or when somebody leaves, that I think that the will of folks who were commenting was pay them for unused vacation part of the PTO, but not the sick time.
That we
And
can do.
is that difficult under, why are we calling it all paid time? Why aren't we calling it vacation and sick if we're having to track it differently
Because
now?
it was easier.
Oh, okay.
Now that there's a
But-
law.
But you'll be able to break out the portions if you had to terminate somebody?
We can change the way that we,
That's the only way we're gonna know what to pay out on
exactly, we would
Actual
have to change the way we.
PTO versus.
Yeah, I mean, but we're able to, you'll be able, and that's not too complicated for you to have to. I mean,
Taya.
Okay.
Taya is the one that does. this
Yeah, 'cause I
stuff.
do think that-
She should have to figure that out.
Policy wise, we ought to pay people for unused vacation, but we ought not to allow people to be
Yes.
accumulating sick leave for years and years.
So right now, Rachel, is their PTO bank, 50-50 split of accrued hours, half of that goes to actual time off and the other half goes to sick leave?
No, it's all in one pot, and the
Okay.
way the employee decides to take it is the way they decide to take it.
So, okay, and then and then other question I had is like, how long we want to allow people to accrue vacation?
Yes, so the vacation or sick.
Well,
'Cause
to me, a tougher question is vacation, but how are you thinking about it?
For vacation and sick, the PTO together, the cap was previously set at 200 hours.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try.
Where's the left? The sick leave, banking, and this is separate. So basically the way I created this, I created two kinds of employees. We don't have that right now. If that's a change, that's a big change.
Yeah.
Some are getting PTO and some are getting just the sick leave. And so the people who are getting just sick leave, the minimum legal amount that we have to keep in carryover is 64 hours. That's a 1 year accrual. So or the equivalent of 64 hours. So that's a 1 year accrual for a full-time person. I think that's 8 days. So that we can just do the legal amount of 8 days, or the equivalent of 8 days. And cap it there. The PTO is, we can change the cap for that if we want to. That might be.
Well, if that's what we've had as the standard,
Yeah.
I mean, that's equivalent of a month, basically, right? I mean, it's 25 days, well, it's 5 weeks, right? Which just seems like that would be, I don't know, that's
That's 25 8-hour days. Yes, that's a lot.
for a small organization, just to be able to like fill that, that's the question. But I don't know, I mean, if that's the existing policy, that's the existing policy.
Yeah, and
It's subject to approval.
Oh, it hasn't been I mean,
No, I mean, if they want to take a month off, is that what you're saying? If someone wants to take a month off?
yeah,
If we can't do it, I don't approve it.
yeah.
so if we go with just PTO or annual leave or whatever you want to call it, we have to make sure that it's reflected in our balance sheet as a liability, because those hours are accruing, and we have to be aware of that's money we're gonna have to pay out at one point or another. And they're already tracking the health RAA liabilities in the balance sheet.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
I don't know if she has the ability, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know if she has the ability to do the PTO liabilities as like this generated QuickBooks thing, but she has been creating reports for you guys that show the PTO liabilities.
Okay. I mean, because she
They're doing it
created
quarterly.
the health one in the balance sheet. It's in the balance sheet already.
Yes.
So it's replicating that creation that she did for your health insurance.
I can ask her about it. I know
yeah.
that we've talked about this before and there was a solution that was come to,
Okay.
but we can revisit it for sure. I can ask her about it.
So we're allowing a year's accrual of sick leave and 200 hours of vacation accrual.
PTO.
Well, with the vacation, oh, that's both.
PTO is sick and vacation.
Yeah, but I thought we're separating them out, but then you're
I'm
only,
separating them out only for certain employees. We did not give, we did not give anything to our substitute librarians. They didn't get sick or vacation. Now we have to give them sick leave.
correct.
So
Okay.
it doesn't make sense to give them vacation. So now automatically we've created this other class of employee that we decided to label non-regular. And we also had a challenge last year during our after-school program where our coordinator wanted to use some of his PTO to take some time off. I now question about whether or not that's appropriate. He's a seasonal employee, or that person, that position is a seasonal position. It doesn't make sense to offer them vacation time, but we do have to give them sick leave, and that does definitely make sense. Our policy said that all employees get PTO, so they got PTO.
Mhm.
So I separated them out too. We could also talk about
I
whether
think
someone who
that's-
works 5 hours a week.
No, that's total. I mean, that was what,
Makes
yeah, and that
sense.
makes sense.
well,
But no, my question is if someone, a full-time employee who leaves has accrued 200 hours of unused PTO,
Oh,
we are
yeah.
only paying them out the vacation portion of that.
I can ask if that's possible.
I mean, that was the issue. I thought that we were going to pay for vacation that's accrued, but not sick leave that they didn't use. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
if that's
I mean,
how,
That's the way it is.
You
in
know,
all schools.
that was my understanding too, and I actually went in on your document, proposed revised PTO policy. You put a comment about termination of employment, all accrued and sick paid, sick leave paid to the employee.
no,
I put in the comments to leave payout of sick leave hours.
yeah.
Okay, so let's change that.
Yeah.
But we have to be very clear that that PTO pot distinguishes between annual hours accrued, annual leave hours, and sick leave, because that could be challenged. If it's all in one pot.
Yeah, if we're required now, if the, I mean, I don't wanna- if we are now required to call something sick leave, I don't think paid time off really serves us. We should be
Okay.
talking about sick leave and vacation time, it seems
Right.
like.
Okay, so what we can do.
But is this just,
Yeah, no, I agree. What we can do is, we can go ahead and say, approve something so that we can be legal when July 1st comes without having another board meeting. And then we can come back with another revision in July that separates out the sick leave and the vacation time for everyone. And then that would be much more straightforward.
and then, yeah, and you can be transparent that employees working at least this much time are accruing both vacation and sick leave.
Yes.
Another set of employees are only accruing sick leave.
Yes, yeah.
And the payroll module in QuickBooks does allow you to create a sick leave category and an annual leave, and that will show up on your paycheck stub as well.
Yes, which is what we had when I came on, and then we changed it. So I don't think it would be a hard thing to go back to that. In some ways it simplifies things. Okay, so do not take out sick leave upon termination, and separate out vacation and sick leave. Okay, great.
And that would be made clear in the handbook.
And cap it at 64 hours.
Yeah, and the handbook makes reference to this policy.
Yeah, which is why I had to make a bunch of
Yeah.
changes in the handbook as well.
So whatever changes we make in the PTO policy, the handbook is already updated to reflect that.
But, yes,
Right, so-
yes.
I would move to approve the employee handbook revised June 2022. Because it doesn't matter what changes we make in the PTO policy, the handbook's already updated to reflect any changes in the policy, right? Because I was reading through it and there's just reference to that PTO policy.
Yes. It just parrots it back.
So second,
Okay, what is the will of the board? We have, if we do go down to new and continuing business,
Well, did you need a PTO policy approval too?
I think, I don't know, do I need the policy, it's a PTO and sick leave policy, do I need to have that policy in place in order to start changing things on July 1st?
I mean, it would be cleaner if it was.
Yeah.
That way the board assumes
I
that
don't want them to read
responsibility
Instead of-
with it,
we
Yes,
empowering
please.
you to do it.
you know.
yeah, I mean, I guess I approve the PTO accrual policy as amended and with allowing for the director to make the needed changes as discussed.
And
Is
then-
that clean enough?
Yeah, I'll second that. And then July's meeting, you can give us, and then if there's a need to make minor adjustments, we can make them known at that time.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, if no one's opposed, that passes in that, with that wording.
I think there is.
Was there anything else on the agenda that needed approval?
No,
There is actually.
oh, sorry.
There is a change order.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't know if we technically have to approve it because it's under $5,000. Wasn't that what was
Okay.
in the contract was over 5,000, it has to get board approval.
Okay. Okay.
I do hope we can leave this evening having set up a meeting for the DEI committee.
Yes. Thank you.
Did we lose Rosalia?
Yes.
So we'll just assume she'll make it work.
I mean, we know when she works.
She works on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays.
So it's ideal if we could do it
If we
then.
can do it. then
Oh,
that-
while she's working
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yeah, that would be the easiest thing.
What day works best for you, Rebecca?
I'm pretty flexible.
Are your kids still doing that summer camp at the tool shed?
Yeah, except someone, I forgot, COVID, you probably know.
Oh, yes, I do.
Because everyone was coming here for tests, so they canceled today, but they're all back on for tomorrow. So,
But that's only until the end of the week.
yeah,
Okay, what are we thinking?
well, what about,
Well, you're-
you have kind of a tight schedule, it sounds like with your work.
So, but yeah, so we want to do it on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, is that what we said?
Yeah, preferably for me, Thursday or Friday.
And looking at next week,
I think that would be best.
Okay.
so Thursday, the 30th,
As long as it's not before noon on Thursday, we're good for me.
yeah, Thursday's not good then, because my afternoon is really not good. But Friday, the 1st. Friday, the 1st is pretty clear for me.
Cool. Could we do sometime between 2 and 6?
Yeah.
Or
Two?
How about you, Marcia?
I'm gone next week. I'm gone Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm back Friday, but
You're
You're
back
back
Friday, the 1st?
Friday the first?
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
let's
we're
do
talking
Friday
about
the
Friday the
1st.
1st.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
2 o'clock,
July Fool's Day.
So,
Okay.
2 o'clock?
Friday at 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
here.
Yes. please.
Woo! We did it.
Man, so much easier when you're face to face.
It is.
Thank you, Darren, for
Go to the calendar. The first. What time? 2, 1?
2.
2. Aquí en la biblioteca.
Yes.
So is Marsha the one that has to sign the 990? I think it is.
yeah, it's already,
Sorry.
it's done.
Yay.
Now we have to work on the next one. And the goal is to get that one done on time, no extensions. Okay. Any pressing questions or concerns about, well, just so y'all know, I'm working very hard on getting our reimbursements back in a timely manner. Our balance is low.
Right.
It's like 20-something thousand dollars now, so it's a huge change from the 90,000 we were seeing a couple of months ago. It is terrifying to me, but one of them is on the way, and that's $20,000, and then we just paid another 40,000, 35, 36,000. And I'm like, I need it. I'm like,
So
I'm gonna
remind
be
me,
on
is it
that.
is it being held up by the county or is it the state?
I don't know.
But they had said, I mean,
To give you
they're paying them within their 30 days, right? That they said they would do it or not. We're not doing it within 30 days. We're not getting.
This last one was not working. Well, it might just barely make it,
I bet they're
but
gonna,
it's not fast enough because that work is going so quickly and we're getting invoices much more quickly.
but you don't have a 30-day pay on your invoice. I mean, you don't have a policy with them that your 30 days pay.
I would need less than 30 days.
No. That
Yeah,
There's
if,
nothing in the contract.
I thought
that I
that there
saw.
was. I thought.
but why wouldn't you tell, why don't we tell them we're paying them, we're on a 30-day?
I thought the contract language was you get paid when we get paid.
Yeah, no, I think we thought we were gonna try to do that, but I mean,
Yeah.
30, for you to say to any contractor, we pay on 30 days is not unreasonable.
Oh, so I can wait on the LUMC.
You don't have to pay him when you get that invoice.
Okay, he puts, okay.
Yeah, no,
thank
he
you.
wants it. He loves that you're doing that, but
That
no,
might have to happen next
almost
month.
everybody that he's working for, I guarantee is on a 30-day pay. I, as a contractor, I bill and nobody pays me in under 30 days.
And I'm gonna guess
Okay,
that
thank
the
you.
county's contract with the state has that clause in there. They pay you when the state pays them.
Oh, yes, that is absolutely. what
And that
happens.
should be the standard language in
Yeah.
our contracts.
And he's probably putting in his invoices to you, payment due upon receipt.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, I mean, we have our own policy. It's like,
Right.
great, but get in line. We have to pay our phone, like you
Yeah,
don't pay your phone
yeah.
bill immediately, you pay it within 30 days.
Yeah.
Like we pay everything within 30 days.
Yes, okay, cool, thank you.
I don't know if the length this applies, looking at the contract we have with the owner shall make progress payments on account of the contract sum to the contractor for the period ending the 25th day of the month. Owner will make payment by the 10th day of the following month.
So that's 20, so that's 15 days. So how, he's been giving you, he's been giving you more regularly than once a month on the third week.
No, I don't think so.
So they want it within 15. So that's saying.
Yeah.
I've been known to camp out at the accounts payable's office.
Oh, I was
to-
like ready to
Demanding
raise
for my
hell,
money.
yeah.
And they want me sitting around, so they gave me my money.
Yeah, but it's. put in
Well,
the
that's a long way to
library,
go, yeah.
in jeopardy.
Well, I think between me now putting pressure on the county and the state, because I was calling both of them. And also letting La Mesilla know that there might be a wait. My fear was that they would stop work.
So you haven't had any discussion with them at all? I mean, either way, I mean, you can tell them like, if there's nothing on our checking account, we're not.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. I'm like, well, thank you for this invoice, but it's gonna have to wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, they should be reasonable about that, I think, because nobody gets paid instantly.
No, but I think there is an appreciation when the money is flowing without any sort of
Yeah.
question. But unfortunately, that's not happening on our end.
But you should definitely at least wait till that very last day, the 10th of the month.
Okay.
I would not be paying any earlier than you have to, because you're gonna be waiting from the county.
Who's your point of contact at the county?
Rosario Jaramillo,
Up at TA?
yes.
On no continuing business, Rachel, don't you feel like on update on the community center renovation, because we have to get permission from the board. If it is on a fast track that we need to demolish the storage area, not just for the co-op, but because we need to finishing our project here. And the co-op got its 200,000, right, to move forward with making the co-op so much better and so on, but we met with Clark and board members from the co-op board about who's going to pay for that. And so it looks like it's been bidded out more or less at something like 9,000. And the co-op board we decided that we could split it 4,500 and 4,500.
Well, they're discussing it at their board meeting.
They're discussing it and we're discussing it
Yes,
too, because
yes.
Cheryl and I were here and we just said, well, we can, it's a board decision. Just anytime you spend money, it's a board decision. But that will probably take place one way or the other before we meet again. So it just takes us back to the budget. Because you said also in your report, I'm a little bit worried about, where we're going to pull funds to
Yeah.
not only
totally.
demolish the part, and behooves us too, because, it's the whole thing about the water, being able to go, it can't go under that building, right? Do you wonder about having the water?
Oh, the co-op,
Ron.
the demolition of the co-op storage is pressing because, or somewhat urgent because the pipe for the water that's coming in from community water needs to go underneath the slab that's currently there. So that slab needs to go so they can do their work on the community center. It's a change from the design. The design was like really cheaped out. They were gonna run the pipe up the side of the building through the roof with heat tape wrapped around it. And everyone has been in agreement that that is a really bad idea and that we will regret it.
So was that the plan that was part of our discussion about just the exterior wall being
Yes.
demolished?
Yes.
So now it's the whole storage room that needs to be demolished.
We didn't talk about just the exterior wall. The issue was that when the whole storage area is demolished, there will be one internal wall that is now an exterior wall, and it needs to have a certain treatment.
So that's a change order itself.
That is actually, I think, at least partially dealt with. We're double sheetrocking it on the inside. And the guy and John from Mama Sia says it would be structurally sound to make that an exterior wall. It just needs the stuff on the outside, the plywood on the outside and the stucco finish. And that is actually in the $9,000 quote that we have. So,
Which is another company that's going to be doing that demolition work.
Yes. It's a company that the co-op is familiar with.
And we have a local bids to do the demolition. However,
Well,
we've got to look at the budget and see where $4,500 unexpected costs having to do to a certain extent with the community center and also partnering it's essential for the co-op's work.
Right.
They
and
be
so-
able to unload and come up that corner and.
when the co-op board members were present at one of our board meetings, it seemed to me that they were adamant that their $200,000 was in no way going to be put into the demolition, even though it's a public benefit.
Yeah. But now they're saying that they could come up somehow. Oh, they were talking about fundraisers.
Okay.
Come up with 4,500 of half of the demolition. Or I believe they mentioned fundraiser.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, so there's two questions, right? I mean, I don't think there's any I'd be supportive of approving $4,500. And if it's simply a cash flow issue, then there ought to be a lot of ways to think about that, including whether we need the co-op to write the check and then we'll agree to pay them within 30 days or something like that. But
We need to do it.
yeah, or if we participate in a fundraiser, if both sides are going to do it. But I think in terms of the question of splitting the cost of doing that, we ought to do it. But the question I have about it, because I've missed the discussion about the approval on the, I saw in your notes that they'd gotten the 200 approved, does that, I'm trying to think about the discussions we had about what the back would ultimately look like. And I mean, this is presumably helping to realize some of our vision for the park. So there's some value to that as well. And I would argue that'd be another reason to help with the demolition on the storage. So I don't know what we need to do. I mean, do we need a motion to approve the 4,500? And then just, I think you just need to be hard with the contractor of like, look, you know my goodwill in terms of paying these bills in time, but I'm at the mercy of the county and state, and I'm going to be waiting until I get funded for them to be able to fulfill these from now on.
Well, but should we really approve just 4,500 in case, because you said the co-op board is deciding if they want to do half, because when they were present, that sounded like, no, the co-op is not interested in paying, so I'm just wondering if we need to approve
I don't,
up to.
right now, we cannot afford to do that.
Yeah, and I think it's like, fine, don't do the improvements on the co-op. We were going forward with our building without.
But we can't go forward, right? I mean, like, that's the thing, is the line, the water line has to go.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
I
good
mean, there's
point.
also discussion about putting it on someone else's property, and coming into the back of the building. I don't know how much that would cost. Yeah, it's.
But they approached us about demoing the storage room. Come on, guys.
Well,
they can
it
come
is
up with
a-
half
Yeah,
of
I'm pretty sure they can come up with 4,000.
It is.
I mean, I think that's what should
I
happen.
mean, funky beyond belief. That's
So
part
we
of
can't afford $4,500 of unrestricted monies this current fiscal year, or would it have to wait for?
I
the
think,
next
I
fiscal year?
think we can.
Okay.
Do we still have money from, what is it, the Koch brothers money?
Yes. In theory.
Because it's unrestricted.
I mean, it's all floating around in this,
I just
Swamp.
recall that the demolition has to happen regardless for the integrity of the building.
Yeah, it's totally funky,
Yeah,
unusable part.
so ultimately it does fall on us as the landlords.
yeah,
so to speak.
it does.
But I'd be willing to move on $4,500.
Okay, cool.
Well, how imminent is this happening? Do we need to move the 9,000? I mean, is it more responsible to approve the demolition of the storage room and whatever that budget is?
And then if we only pay half.
and then work over the co-op to cover their half
Maybe
of it.
so.
I mean, we need that work to occur, right? And
Yeah.
and if you're thinking it's happening before our next board meeting, I say we approve the demolition. And
It was pretty much a handshake, that meeting, kind of a handshake
Oh,
agreement.
was it?
Yeah, it was, and they came around because when we first talked about it and walked over the station, they were just like, oh, the co-op can't do that. And then we just said, well, then, it's not bothering us that much. So it was one of those kind of things.
I'm just wondering if we do an approval like that, does then the burden fall on us or to go through the bidding process?
What is the limit? If it's 9,000, do you have to bid for 9,000?
But we've gotten a couple of bids, right? The co-op.
Yeah, they're,
Let's
I
put
think,
it out.
you know, informalish. I don't think it's been put out. Hey, anybody who wants to tear this thing down, but 2 people stepped up. And there was a discussion about who seemed the most, but I see what, if we approve the 9,000, but still work to assume maybe that they're gonna cover half of it.
Well, I guess I would word the motion that we approve the demolition of the storage
We approved it.
building.
Okay, is that good with everybody?
And then we just secure a written agreement with the co-op,
Yeah.
or take a picture of the handshake.
You get out and do such.
Oh, and
I-
show more.
Rebecca, how about, I think we're just all kind of there, but I really like the update, you know, on the compilation of our agreements and what you posted.
Yeah, and I think our committee wants to
So it's
continue to
okay to
work
move
on
that.
the,
Yeah.
on
Move
the
that forward.
agreement. So I think we can just go ahead and meet again
If
before
it's
the
okay
next
with
board.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded. Thank you all, and thank you all for staying half an hour later.
And they said it was gonna be a short meeting.
I know, who said that?
I really apologize for being late. You all, I have no excuse. I'm sorry.
Tim, if you want to come and take it, we wouldn't have had a meeting.
That's
so-
right. I
know.
Yeah,
You would-
we-
Well, everyone would be able to be
We'd be
watching the
home.
Westminster Dog Show or something.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Sure. Did we lose everyone on Zoom?
Yeah, they've been. gone for a while.
Would you like us to stay to help close up the library?
It's okay. Yeah, I'm leaving.
It's just like, do this, lights off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, we can help them. This fell off this chair.
Oh, that chair is already broken. Oh, yeah. You're good.
I'll just put it over the floor, right?
Do you need filing cabinets, middle ones?
Do they lock?
Don't know.
I need it.
Like what's the floor?
Your daughter Lucy is so
Oh, you got to
adorable.
do
I
the
got to go to the
women's
and
night.
all the rafters there, and I finally got to lay in the land of the rafters and
Warehouse.
who runs the rafting company.
Oh,
Well,
Wendy, yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Did you know, you don't know Wendy at all?
And the ceiling is.
Oh, they lived
as
here a
tall
long
as
time,
a-
so we can
tip
know
of
that's-
the-
Yeah, and Lucy I had met,
Yes,
and I got
yeah.
to sit next to her for a
filing
while, and then
cabinets
her good
all over
buddy,
the top.
Hannah.
yeah, Hannah, who
And
like,
he's just
she's so
one of the-
hysterical, like,
Yeah.
that's the last
I'll
thing I
ask
thought
her.
I was gonna do, I didn't know how that
I
gets.
may not know. He's like,
So there was all the rafting talk,
I
but,
don't want me if they don't.
Oh, that's
but
fine.
Lucy is just,
She's
oh,
fine.
she's special, I know all your kids are, but she is really very cool. and-
She's a cool kid. Yeah, and
And then
I
there's-
really wanted her to meet Seth because that's what she wants to do at high school. I mean, I haven't seen him wander around town. I think he's here.
I'll
Or
ask
something,
them.
you know, that.
They lock.
We should just have him over for a beer.
And I'm
'cause I
sure
think
that
she'd really
he
like
also
that.
has one of those.
And then Kate went around and asked everybody after they graduated from whatever
Yeah.
college, like, what do you do? Oh, that was
What
hysterical.
was the best? You gave this postgraduate advice. God.
Would you also be interested in the 2-floor filing cabinet?
But it's fun to have her around in the summer,
I'll
because
see
this
what-
is her, like the third summer, fourth summer.
Yeah, and she has her own, company, which is great. It's just like, you know, we'll run into the Blue Harrison, but that whole raft.
Oh,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
this whole young people group that we don't really
Why does it?
know about, which is
all
really
made-
fun.
Hugely.
Well, I know when I took on this.
Good to see you, Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca. I say, the previous guy that held my position.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, created this culture with the schools where there's very low accountability.
I used to.
And so now I'm having to
Sorry.